So today I'm going to be trying out a new fiber craft. I don't actually know what it's called, but let me jump in right away and show you the kits that I bought, and maybe somebody out there can tell me what it is. So I went to Rhinebeck a couple weeks ago, and mostly I just bought yarn or yarny things, but this one booth really captured my attention, and I kind of looked once earlier in the day and walked away, and I ended up back there in the afternoon, and I bought two kits. The booth is called Epicurean Boutique. This is the info card that they put in my bag, and I'll link all this in the down bar as well. But they are these, like, again, I don't know what to call them. They're these kits. They come with felt, they come with thread, they come with patterns. I got two. This one, the shopkeeper said has enough to make 7 pumpkins in their Halloween, and I'm all about this. I'm very excited to get started on this one today. And I also got this little Christmas set, which says it comes with enough for a candle mat and a mini mat / mug rug. So it's got like a coaster and a little centerpiece keeper. And again, it's the felt, I don't know, I don't see the thread, I don't know, and the pattern. And they had the option to buy all of them, to just buy the pattern, or to buy the kit that has all the supplies. And it was just such a great booth. I don't know, it captured my imagination so well, because this booth was just covered, just plastered with so many different of the finished objects on display. Everything you can imagine. It felt like being in an antique store that was like entirely made of wool. It was really cute. But again, I don't know what to call this because it's not felting, right? Because it's already felted. It comes with sheets of felt. That's not felting. Is it cool? It's not quilting. Maybe it could be quilt. It has like elements of felting, quilting, needlepoint, embroidery, but it's none of the above. And I don't know what this craft is called. If you know what this is, please tell me. I'm very curious to know. My mom compared it to, for like paper crafts, they call it, I think she could paper piecing. But I know that and there are types of quilting called paper piecing as well. Or I don't know, felt piecing. I'm absolutely unaware of what this is, but I'm excited to try it nonetheless. So I think today what I'm going to do is kind of try to start my felt pumpkins. Open up the pattern, kind of try to understand what it is. I'm pretty sure that it's mostly cutting out the pieces, the little decorations that go on the pumpkins, and stitching them down. Maybe some light embroidery around the edges. I don't know. There are all like 3-dimensional stuffed pumpkins, and it doesn't come with fill, but I have tons of cabbage from sewing and yarn scraps and thread scraps, and I actually probably have a couple old bags of polyfill from like thrift stores in the closet, so that's not going to be an issue. But let's crack it open and see what this is all about. All right, so an issue that I've already run into is that this calls for, where is it? Freezer paper, which I would assume is wax paper. And the instructions reference tracing the pattern onto the paper side of the freezer paper and then ironing it with the shiny side facing so that it will stick to the wool, and then you can cut it out more easily, which is why I imagine it's wax paper. I only have parchment paper in my kitchen. I'm going to try to use that anyway. I don't think it'll stick if I press it because it doesn't have the wax on it, but I might just be able to pin it. So I just went and grabbed a hole punch because some of these pieces have these little circles on them that are like eyes or details, and that looks like a pain to cut out, but I thought a hole punch is probably the right size. But then also I brought these because wouldn't it be cute if some of them had like button eyes instead? I think it would. So this may be a weird time to mention that I don't really do embroidery. I kind of learned how when I was a little kid, and I used to try when I was like 10 and 11 years old, but I really haven't done any since then. So was this a great choice for me? I don't know. Okay, I've got my little sections here. This is a really neat format for the craft, I think, because based on the picture, which is all I really had to go with, I was thinking it was going to be like, okay, put a cat next to a cauldron and put a bat next to a skull. And it's really like, these are a bunch of motifs you pick and choose. It says to do 2 per pumpkin and then do 2 like kind of intermediate ones that have little stars or flowers. I've gone off book a little bit in a couple ways. Firstly, I added the buttons like I said I was going to because I think they're really cute. And I've got a billion of these little buttons that I'll probably never use otherwise. And I also, made some mistakes which no big deal if you can't spot it right now. I'm not going to tell you. But I added like this pumpkin, like, okay, for instance, I didn't know enough about it to think I'm making a pumpkin. So I chose this like burnt orange color for the color of the main pumpkin. And then I immediately chose 2 motifs that have pumpkins on them. So like, what color do I make the pumpkins? So I chose this kind of like orangey yellow. It's really more yellowy, but I think it turned out okay. But this one kind of looked more like an orange, like a little Florida orange. So I added a little bit of these running stitches just to do like the lines of a pumpkin and make it look more like a pumpkin. So I can already see how customizable it is and what sort of options I'll have. And I'm already thinking, I definitely want to do a few more of the motifs that it came with. I like this little pumpkin on the moon thing. Definitely with buttons. Oh, so cute. I love the cat. I love the cauldron, the skull. Like I definitely want to do a couple more this style, but she said it comes with enough felt for 7 pumpkins. So I think after I do maybe 2 or 3 more based on the instructions, like this style, I think I'm gonna go off book and kind of do one that's like all bats, or, you know, just improvise, because there's enough here. I don't need to do any repeats, and the whole point is to be creative. All right, so the next step in the instructions is to sew these together on a sewing machine. So I'm gonna go upstairs. All right, well, here's what we have. I definitely got a little too close to the seam allowance at some parts, but no big deal. None of the big motifs ended up stuck in the seams. This is pretty exhausting. Maybe not because of the nature of the craft itself, but because I'm learning a new craft and there's a lot of thought involved. So for now, I think I'm basically just gonna stuff some cabbage in here just to see what it looks like. And then I think I'm gonna call it quits for the day, probably pick up tomorrow and finish this one off and do another one. Okay, so it's been 2 days. Obviously, I haven't done anything. My only pumpkin is still in the same state it was when I last saw you. I'm going to finish it up. I did have an opportunity this afternoon to go gather some sticks in the yard while I was taking my dogs out, and it was beautiful, and I think these will do okay. I don't know if I'm crazy about the look of them with the sticks for stems, but it's my best option, and I guess I can always change it later. I'm gonna finish up this single pumpkin, and then I decided I'm going to kind of assembly line it and go through and cut out the large petal-shaped pieces that I need to make the actual pumpkin itself. And then after I've got those, I can kind of one by one decorate them and pick out motifs and things and kind of mosey through and do it in a more efficient way. So I think I'm going to do a lot of that while I'm like on the couch watching TV and not necessarily film it, but I'll check in periodically and I will definitely show you the finished products when I'm done. Okay, so I ended up actually sitting here a lot longer than I intended to, and I cut out a lot of pieces. There is enough for 5 more pumpkins. The lady said 7, but I think there's only enough for 6, but that's fine. I don't really need 7. It's kind of an arduous process as it is. So I've kind of got general layout ideas here. I'm going to do a cat and a moon, ghost and a skull, cat and a skull, cauldron and a moon, one with just a bunch of bats, and then I've got a bunch of stars and little leaves and pumpkins and extra accessories cut out and ready to go. And I think I'm going to call it quits for today, but tomorrow I can start matching up these little motifs with the pumpkins and adding buttons and adding embroidery, and I feel like I'm in a good place.
So I've been sort of plugging away at this over the last couple days. I'm a little congested. I don't know if you can tell in my voice, but I, the other day, tested positive for you know what. So I've been stuck at home and really quite lethargic and not really up to knitting or crafting as much as I normally am, but I've been keeping this little plastic plate that I have with all of the little supplies for this right next to me so that I can kind of go through and stitch these on every time I have a little bit of energy and feel like moving around. So it's been good. It's slow. I mean, I think I've got enough here for 3 pumpkins. And honestly, this has taken me like 3 days, which is much slower than I would normally craft. But, you know, there's a reason. It's not unfounded. Anyway, I wanted to show you this because I thought this was funny. Each pumpkin is supposed to have some leaves on top per the instructions. So I have cut out all these leaves. I traced these shapes as I thought I was supposed to, and I cut out all these leaves. And then I noticed, hilariously, that these are not shapes that you trace. These are like diagrams. But they're like the same sheet of paper, the same weight of line and everything as these shapes that you are supposed to trace. So I didn't notice. These are the leaves you're supposed to cut out. And this is a diagram of the parts of the pumpkin and how you sew them together to make the pumpkin, which is kind of funny. So now I'm going through, you can kind of see, and like recutting all these little leaves I cut so that they're more pumpkin shaped, I guess. And then I still have a couple more of these to do, but I've actually run out of black embroidery floss. I think I didn't separate enough strands each time I did it. I thought I was doing enough, but I've had to order some more embroidery floss from Amazon, which will come tomorrow. And for now, I'm just going to cut out these leaves and stitch the leaves a little bit and get to a point that's better for when the floss does show up.
Okay, so I finished them. They're cute. I like them. This project actually ended up being a welcome change of pace. Like I said, I got sick. I've been stuck in quarantine. Quarantine? Anyway, I haven't really been able to work on anything else. I have done a lot of knitting in more recent days, but in the earlier days of having tested positive and being stuck in quarantine. And I didn't really want to work on stuff so much, but I kept this next to my chair because even though it wasn't the kind of sustained physical activity that knitting is, if I did have a little bit of energy, it was easy enough to do 1 or 2 panels on these little pumpkins and just kind of stitch things quickly, and it was very simple to set down and put aside when I ran out of energy. So they did get done because of that. I'm not really sure where I would put them, and it kind of doesn't matter because today is Halloween. But like I said, I did accomplish something. I did wrap these up. I think they're cute. I still don't know what this craft is called. If this is like your craft or is this something you do or you know about it, please comment and tell me what the heck is this called. This is going to be the rest of my Halloween content for the year. Sadly, I had planned several more, but you know, this just wiped me out a lot. But for now, enjoy these cute little felt pumpkins, and I'm sure they'll be out with all my decor next year. I hope you enjoyed this unusual foray into this mystery craft with me. It was fun. I would do it again. I'm going to do it again because I bought that little Christmas candy cane kit. Although that one I think is simpler, maybe. Now that I say that, I'm probably jinxing it, and it's not. But it is just 2 small pieces instead of 6 3-dimensional pieces. But yeah, I'm going to try it again. I had fun. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and maybe subscribe so you can check back next time when I do my more regular content of knitting or sewing or crocheting. I have a lot of that coming up for the holidays, but we'll talk about that on the other side of Halloween. Until next time, thanks for watching. I'll see you around.